Have you ever wondered why life seems to throw obstacles in your path, just when you are giving everything to achieve your most cherished dreams? There are moments when the world falls silent, and all we feel is the cold weight of disappointment pressing down on our tired, weary shoulders. Like a leaf falling in a quiet forest, some endings happen without a sound, leaving us to wonder if we have been abandoned by luck. These ripples of failure often feel like the end of the world, but perhaps they are just the beginning of a much deeper, hidden transformation. Meet a young carpenter who lost everything in a single night. His dreams, his tools, and his future were reduced to nothing but bitter black ash. His eyes reflect the darkness of the embers, searching for answers in the ruins. Why would fate be so cruel to someone who worked so hard? The silence of the ruins was deafening, a void where his passion used to be. Every piece of wood he once loved was now gone forever. Is failure truly a punishment, or is it a secret shield? Could it be that destiny is protecting you from a path you weren't meant for? We often lack the perspective to see the grand design. We only see the fire, not the ground that is being cleared for something new. When your heart is broken, the silence feels like a prison. But in this silence, a quiet voice begins to speak if you are ready. He decided to seek a higher truth, leaving behind the ashes of his old life to find a master who lived deep within the forest. His hands, once skilled at shaping life from wood, were now covered in the dust of death. Every touch was a reminder of his loss. The journey into the unknown is always paved with rain and cold. He walked for days, driven by a desperation to understand his own pain. Like a wild horse seeking shelter from a storm, his soul was racing toward a sanctuary he could not yet see in the dark night. The path to wisdom is never easy. It requires us to shed our old skin and face the elements with nothing but our rawest selves. At the edge of the world, he found a small hut. It was simple, quiet, and seemed to breathe with the mountain itself in peace. Inside, the air smelled of cedar and old tea. The chaos of the world outside felt miles away, replaced by a profound, heavy stillness. The master did not ask why he was there. He simply poured a cup of tea, his movements slow, deliberate, and filled with ancient grace. "Master," the young man whispered, "why did the fire take everything I loved? Why has destiny left me with nothing but cold, empty hands?" The master smiled faintly, a look of deep compassion in his eyes. He pointed to the fire burning brightly in the hearth near them. "To build a great temple," the master said, "the ground must often be cleared by fire. Fire is not just destruction, it is a purifier." The old man explained that the universe sometimes removes what is good to make room for what is truly great and meant for us. He began to realize that his old workshop, though comfortable, was a cage that limited his potential. He was building only what was expected. Look beneath the surface of your tragedy. There is a core of strength that the fire could not touch, waiting for your discovery and use. The silence between them grew, but it was no longer a heavy silence. It was a space filled with the potential for a new life. Every loss is a lesson in letting go. When we let go of what we thought we needed, we find what we actually possess. Drink your tea and rest. Tomorrow we will not rebuild your workshop. We will begin to refine your soul through the art of wood. The warmth of the tea spread through him, a small spark of light in the cold cavern of his grief, signaling a change of heart. The first night in the mountains was the first night he slept without the weight of the ashes crushing his chest and his spirit. Silence is the language of destiny. It is in the quietest hours that the loudest truths are finally heard by those who listen closely. Work began at dawn. Each stroke of the plane was a meditation, a way to strip away the unnecessary layers of his own ego. The master taught him that every knot bow, every shave of the wood, was a step toward revealing the hidden beauty within the timber. Focus on the present moment. Do not look back at the fire. Look at the grain of the wood right in front of you. Destiny is like a master craftsman. It cuts and carves us not to hurt us, but to shape us into something of great value. Consider the seeds in the earth. They must endure the darkness and the pressure of the soil before they can break into the light. He worked until his hands bled, then worked until they healed. Each scar became a mark of his growing mastery over himself and wood. The master watched in silence. He knew that the silence the young man once feared was now becoming his greatest source of creative power. Sometimes, destiny places a boulder in our way to force us onto a path we would never have dared to explore on our own. If your old shop had not burned, you would still be making chairs and tables. Now, you are learning to breathe life into the wood. Look at the horizon, the master said. The sun sets every day, yet we do not mourn its death because we know it returns. Friction is necessary for polish. Pain is the sandpaper of the soul, smoothing out our rough edges until we shine with inner light. He no longer saw the fire as an enemy. He saw it as a harsh friend who had liberated him from a mediocre and repetitive life. The sculpture began to take shape. It wasn't just wood anymore. It was the embodiment of his struggle, his grief, and his eventual triumph. The master saw the transformation. The boy who came with ashes in his pockets now had gold in his heart and magic in hands. When destiny closes a door, it is often to prevent you from walking into a hidden abyss that you are not yet aware of. He learned to see the value in what was discarded. The twisted roots and broken branches held the most interesting stories and most unique shapes. Patience became his new companion. He learned that some things cannot be rushed, and that timing is as important as the tool itself. In the silence of the forest, his mind became a clear mirror, reflecting the beauty of nature back into his work with every single stroke. Hours turned into days, and days into months. The silence was no longer empty. It was vibrating with the energy of his creative spirit. The bond between them grew strong. The master was the bridge that helped him cross from the land of despair to the shores of peace. The final layers are always the most rewarding. They reveal the true character of the wood that was hidden under the rough, dark surface. He realized that failure was just a pause, a huang lung that allowed the universe to rearrange the pieces of his life into better positions. He was no longer the victim of his story. He had become the author, and the fire was just a dramatic turning point in his book. The masterpiece was complete. A phoenix, carved from the very type of wood that had once burned in his old shop, now stood tall. It was more than art. It was a symbol of his own rebirth. It captured the essence of rising from the ashes with new strength. The weight he had carried for so long finally vanished. He saw that the loss of his workshop was the price of his soul's freedom. "You have found it," the master whispered. "The fire could not burn the artist, only the tools. You are now the true master of wood." When you accept the impermanence of life, you gain a freedom that no fire and no tragedy can ever take away from you again. Peace is not the absence of storm, but the calm at the center of it. He had found his center in the silence of the mountains. Your current silence is your protection. It is the time for you to accumulate inner power and prepare for the next great season. He was ready to return, not to rebuild what was lost, but to create something entirely new and far more beautiful than before. The master remained, a silent guardian of the mountains, knowing his student was now equipped to handle whatever fire life might bring next. He didn't need a large shop anymore. He carried his skill and his peace within him, and the world began to notice the difference. The story of the phoenix spread. It became a beacon of hope for everyone who had ever felt the sting of failure and loss. His work now had the power to heal others because it was born from his own healing. His pain had become a gift to others. Success is not about how much we own, but how much of our true selves we can share with the world around us every day. Life always finds a way to bloom over the ruins. The earth doesn't remember the fire, it only remembers the water and the sun. Nature teaches us that every ending is just a hidden beginning. Do not fear the Huanglong, for it is the womb of creation. When it rains, he no longer feels cold. He hears the music of the droplets, knowing they are feeding the trees he will one day carve. Every life has a grain, a unique pattern designed by destiny. Trust the hands that are carving your story, even when they cut deep. The fire that destroyed his workshop was the best thing that ever happened to him, though it took a long time to see it clearly. Your soul is like that bird. It needs the open sky of uncertainty to truly learn how to fly and find its home. Destiny is not a destination, it is a direction. Sometimes we must be lost for a while to find the right way home again. He honored the silence that had saved him. It was his greatest teacher, his most loyal protector, and his most constant source of light. Take a deep breath. Feel the life inside you. You are still here, and that means your story is far from being over yet. Trust the process. Trust the fire. Trust the silence. Everything is happening exactly as it needs to for your highest and greatest good. As the day ends, remember that your failures are not a sign of weakness. They are the silent protection of a destiny that loves you. Be patient with yourself. The universe is not in a hurry, so why should you be? Every season has its own time to bloom. What is lost was never truly yours. What remains is the essence of who you are, and that is more than enough to start again. Be grateful for the things that didn't work out. They were the diversions that kept you away from the paths that would have broken you. Your life is a masterpiece in progress. Sometimes the artist needs to step back and look at the canvas from a distance in silence. The wisdom of the silence is always available to you. You only need to stop, listen, and trust the quiet voice of your heart. Flow like water. When you hit a rock, do not fight it. Simply find the way around it and continue your journey toward the ocean. The fire has passed, the silence has spoken. You are now stronger, wiser, and more beautiful than you ever were before the tragedy. Listen to the whisper of destiny. It says, I am protecting you. I am preparing you. I am leading you toward your true purpose. Everything that happens is a gift, even if the wrapping is painful and difficult to open. Trust that the content is exactly what you need. Tomorrow is a new day, filled with possibilities you cannot yet imagine. Smile at the mystery and walk forward with a brave, open heart. Be grateful for the path, the fire, and the silence. They are the tools destiny uses to carve the most beautiful version of you. Thank you for listening to your soul in this moment of quiet reflection. May your Huanglong lead you always toward the light within. May you find peace in the silence, strength in the ashes, and the courage to become the masterpiece you were always meant to be.